You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. It's the end of the year, which means it's time for our Camera of the Year Roundup. To help us, we have a couple of guests joining us in the studio today. Sean Steiner just might hold the record for guest appearances on our show. In addition to being a photographer and a videographer, Sean is a senior creative writer on the B&H Explorer website team. Joining us for the first time on the B&H Photography Podcast is Chelsea Jensen. Chelsea works in the pro photo department in our New York City superstore. To keep herself out of trouble when she's not working in the store, Chelsea photographs weddings, family portraits, newborns, and classified military installations. Chelsea's personal work, you like that? Chelsea's personal work includes shooting self-portraits using long exposure times and compositing multiple images together. Welcome, Chelsea.
Thank you.
All right. I lied about the military installations. I just made that up. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about cameras, and we've got too many cameras to talk about. So we're going to go around, talk about, we'll start talking about full frame, mirrorless, and then go into micro four thirds and smaller cameras and medium format, and then talk about lenses. The big news, of course, is almost old news already, and that is that Canon and Nikon finally went to full frame mirrorless cameras. They had smaller format, but not full frame. So, Chelsea, you're out in the store, the rest of us are not, and you get to interact with customers. So what is the feedback? What are people asking about when they come into the store about the new cameras, Canon and Nikon?
A lot of it is mostly lenses. Yeah. They're really nervous about their previous lenses from their DSLRs working properly on the mirrorless ones. So I know Nikon did a really good job with their autofocus and everything on their lenses. Mm-hmm. And Canon they're coming out with 3. There's one available now to adapt. And then there's the other one that has the control ring on it. And then they're coming out with another one that is extra fancy and extra expensive that'll be available in February. But so far, I haven't heard any complaints about the autofocus not working properly, and it seems seamless. So once they get more lenses coming out, I think people are going to buy them more. Because once you have a mirrorless and then an adapter and then DSLR lens.
Everything is possible.
It is already the size of a DSLR. Right, so yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that so far, I mean, they've been selling well, but I think it'll be even better once they come out with more lenses that people can expand their whole collection even farther. You
mean lenses to use without an adapter?
Exactly, because right now
dedicated
it's
glass, yeah.
You're basically having the same amount of weight. And I think the thing people like about mirrorless is the weight difference. Mm-hmm. Although that's not what Canon went for, was with the weight difference. They just wanted a mirrorless option. They said specifically they weren't doing it for weight, because if you hold that thing, it's still pretty beefy.
Yeah,
it's still pretty big.
28 to 70 f2 is not a small lens.
No. And then nothing's been made like that before. And it's a big lens. It's a really big lens.
Well, I think we'll talk about lenses later, but I think a lot of the newer lenses are coming out right now. There's some really big glass out there that's kind of simple in what it does, but we'll come back to that later on.
And have either of you used the lenses with the cameras? I mean, the lenses we're talking about?
I recently had the Canon EOS R with a couple lenses, and the adapter worked pretty much perfectly. Okay. It was hard to find any flaws there.
Now, you just use Canon lenses with it?
Yes. Well, I actually used one Sigma lens.
Okay.
The weird 70 macro, because I was kind of worried that wouldn't work with the different autofocus motor. But no problems.
Really?
Yeah,
okay. Now, one of the third-party manufacturers, I don't know, it was Tamron or somebody said that there was an issue with their lenses with one of the new adapters, but it might have been corrected.
I know they just released a bunch of firmware for maybe a dozen lenses.
Okay.
So most of their current stuff should be good.
All right. I mean, they're not going to let that slide because that's too important. I think it's part of the whole. Everybody benefits from that.
And Chelsea, are you seeing a lot of people excited about the cameras? Is it what people are asking about primarily when they come in at this point?
Canon users are still sticking with the 5D4, I've noticed, but the Nikon people are excited about the Z series. Okay. I feel like they've sold a lot of those, which is good for Nikon.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're seeing more of a drive for Nikon then?
Yeah, from the Nikon users.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were really excited about it. I think they were really excited about the mirrorless high resolution sensors, because people that shoot Nikon always want more resolution is something I've noticed. They're like, how is it only 24 megapixels?
Only.
So I feel like that one is selling a lot. And I think that a lot of people are still, that shoot Nikon are still like nervous about mirrorless. So they're holding off for a minute. But I have sold quite a few of the Canon ones.
Okay, and both cameras are in stock now?
They are all in stock.
All three.
Finally.
All three, yeah.
The 850 is also in stock.
We have the 850.
Okay. Do you think, just a little break, do you think these two cameras are going to affect Sony sales? Because obviously Sony's owned the market for the past few years, and now all of a sudden the two big guys are now sharing that market. And it's obviously going to take time for them to catch up. But do you think it's going to have a big impact on Sony sales? And because Sony's won a lot of people over.
Yeah. Not that I've noticed. I sell more A7 IIIs every day than I do any Nikon or Canon equipment.
I think you're going to hit a lot of people who haven't gone to mirrorless yet, going to Nikon and Canon mirrorless options, whereas people who have already converted probably are fine going with Sony or a different brand. Yeah.
Go back. Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are tons of Nikon and Canon shooters have been just waiting for that day, this day.
Yeah. Right. I mean, the Nikon, I think they're priced very well comparatively to the Sony. So if you're looking for your first mirrorless system, you're definitely going to want to compare those very directly.
Mm-hmm. And if you were to make a choice today, either of you, between sticking with the Canon DSLR or going to the mirrorless, what would you do?
Well, I already moved to Sony.
Me too.
I will say, if Nikon came out with the Z series a couple years ago, before I was so heavily invested in Sony, I would have probably gone with the Nikon.
Why? But why?
I probably would have done the same.
Because it's a familiar brand.
And
to
you're
you,
both
or?
Canon.
No, I went from Canon to Sony. Nikon
Same.
would have been completely different, but they're pretty equivalent in terms of features. And to be honest, I like the feel and operation of the Nikon cameras better than the Sonys.
Okay. And a lot of it has to do with that. Whenever people come to you, what's a good camera? They're all good cameras. There's no such a thing really as a bad camera these days. And I tell a lot of people that, go pick it up, look through the Finder, look at the menus, which camera talks to you, because they're all going to take good pictures. And if you don't get along with the camera, I don't care how good it is, you're not taking good pictures.
That's what I tell people too.
Right?
They want to compare cameras that are really sometimes the only difference is the brand name on it. Mm-hmm. Like you got to just go sit and play with it, and that'll help you figure it out.
And this is kind of a side question. When that happens at the store and someone's at your counter and they want to pull out the Canon and the Nikon and the Sony, and you just let them play and give them the time they need
just
to?
sit there with them, let them sit and play with it. If they have questions, when they're going back and forth between different cameras, then we'll sit and answer them. Right. And sometimes people are there hour, 2 hours, just trying to get a feel and understand it, because it is all different.
Yeah, and they'll never be 100% comfortable until after they make the purchase.
It's true. Once you have weeks to play with it.
I've been shooting Sony for years, and I still can't find some things in the menu sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for telling me, because I have the same issue. I'm finally starting to find where some of my regular pieces are in there.
Cool. All right, so what's next then? And the full frame mirrorless is
other full frame
gear, right?
Well, we have the Leica Q-P, which is a rewarming of the Q, which is...
You know what, maybe we never really even noted the names of the cameras, the Nikon and the Canon, so maybe we should just wrap that up and then jump to the Leica.
Yeah, good point. It's the Canon EOS R, and of course this sheet here is in alphabetical. The Nikon Z7 and Z6. Those are the three cameras we were just talking about.
And has there been any indication of what, kind of the roadmap's going to be for the systems? Is Canon going to put something else
There's supposed
out?
to be some high-res stuff coming out, 50, 60 megapixel. I saw some rumors.
Yeah, considering Canon specifically positioned the EOS R as an advanced amateur camera, their words, there's got to be something coming on probably both sides.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, they're just going to build on this. This is where it's going. This is where it's heading.
Maybe. All right.
What else we got here?
We'll talk about the Sony, since we already kind of mentioned them.
Yeah, how about the Sony?
They were pretty quiet this year, but the A7 III dropping at WPPI was huge. Especially the price point on that for the features was amazing when it came out.
Yeah.
And some of the features are?
Well, it's It's got a new sensor, the backside illuminated, so you get much better image quality. The speed is way better, and for video shooters, it's got the latest profiles and everything. So, and it does full down sampling from the full sensor, so it's actually better than the A7R III when it comes to video.
Okay. Well, that's pretty
And
good.
that's also, how many megapixels that? That's
It's 24.
only 24. That's what I was
only
getting
24.
at. Only 24. 24 really is a magic number. I don't know how many people really need more than 24. You get a nice balance of detail and tonality at 24, and a lot of people seem to stay there. It's, I don't know.
Yeah, it's rare that people need that 45 megapixels, but they do like to have it.
Just because.
Yes.
Just because. Okay, so 3 Leicas, the Q-P, the M10P, and M10D. The Q-P is a minor update. I think it's all cosmetic.
Yeah.
And also has a shutter. I think they improved the shutter release or something.
It's a little
like
quieter.
That. Quieter, yeah. But that's about it.
It
But
doesn't have the red dot.
Which to me is a selling point. No, it's there's no red dot on it, and they tweaked it a little bit. I think it's an amazing camera. I've shot the original Q, and I loved it. The close focusing and the lens is brilliant and it's fast. 28 1.7 fixed. That's all it does, but it does it very, very well. It's pricey, but it's a beautiful camera. And the difference between the M10P and D is
There's no screen on the D.
No screen. Interesting. Okay.
They went the whole analog spirit thing with that one. And the other part about it is that it has a film advance lever.
yes, which I love, which doesn't advance anything.
It doesn't do anything, but it is basically your new thumb grip.
Well, they realize that a lot of people are making money selling these little slip-on thumb rests.
They are.
And you know, the truth of the matter, I thought it was really just ridiculous at first, but it does make sense because if you have shot with a Leica, the thumb rest is an integral part of handling the camera and balancing it. And when you went digital, all of a sudden your thumb had no place to go.
Yeah, it helps.
It does. It does. It steadies the camera. It just feels better in your hand. And I think I just wish they would have actually had you advance to the next frame. That would have been the best. I don't want to hear click where. I want people to just turn that thing.
Next one.
I hope so.
I know,
hope so.
I'm on the opposite side. I kind of like how they're just like, it's cosmetic.
Right.
What do you think about having to take you for the D though? Having to take the card out and sending it to the drugstore to get your pictures back. That's kind of weird, isn't it? Just
You just get a pile of 4x6s and
What do you guys think of that? I happen to like the idea of having no screen. I mean, I think it's crazy to build a camera that way because obviously you could just turn off the screen and put a piece of tape over it. But I happen to like the fact that you have to trust yourself and you have to rely on your skills rather than just saying, well, let's make sure it came out before we
It makes
move
it
on.
kind of fun. Like when you shoot your 35 millimeter, you're like, you don't know until you get the film developed.
That's
and you
part
don't know
of
until
it.
you go home and plug your SD card in.
Yeah, I think that's part of the fun of the whole thing, especially if you know what you're doing. And let's face it, these cameras are pretty much full. Well, maybe not in this case because you really do have to make settings on it.
I wish you didn't have to pay more for them to take out a feature.
Oh, yeah. That's
That's
true.
the only thing.
Now, what about the Zeiss? When we talked about that before, you guys were pretty excited. So.
Yeah, the ZX1. No, that's not out yet.
Not yet. Hopefully early next year.
Yeah.
That's what they were saying.
It's
a
pretty
fixed-
crazy.
Yeah, it's. I saw it. I touched it at the expo. I want to see what it could actually do. It's again 35 f2 fixed. It's like the Leica Q, except the 35. But it's really we talked about this on an earlier show.
Yeah,
It's sort of
in-depth,
like
yeah.
it's an iPhone that takes very serious pictures in a sense, where it's really meant for
It's more of a camera with an iPhone on the back of it.
exactly, but it doesn't make phone calls.
512 gigabytes SSD.
I know
A lot of laptops don't even have that.
it doesn't have a card
Although
slot.
no card slot definitely is
Weird,
tripping
right?
up a lot of people.
Sure. Are people asking about it a lot?
No one has asked about it at the store. Probably because they haven't released it yet. We don't have anything on
And
display.
people don't think about Zeiss as a camera company,
Right.
even though it used to be.
Yeah, big one.
But this is going
After
to
they
be
partnered up
kind
with
of a
Sony.
sleeper kind of thing. I think I'm curious to see how they're going to market it and sell it and get it out there.
So the only full frame DSLR that came out this year is the
Pentax
new-
K1.
the K1 Mark II.
The Mark II.
Yep.
Is that true? Okay.
Which is a really nice camera, a lot of camera for the dollar, and people who buy them use them. And I did a test on the original K1 when it came out. I was just really impressed by
It's a solid camera.
it. Is. It is. And I think Pentax always had a branding problem and a marketing problem.
Yeah, they're not big in the U.S.
No.
They are outside, though.
Yeah.
And that's reflected in the store? I mean,
Yeah.
you don't get a lot of people asking about them too
No,
much.
but I mean,
those that like them
international
come in.
customers that come in, they always like go straight for Pentax.
Interesting.
And Pentax customers are loyal. I mean, I know a few people that they don't care what anyone else can. They got a Pentax, they're happy.
Well, there were people hanging out for Pentax waiting for the K1.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was a long time coming.
Waiting years.
Yeah. They kept that every show. They brought out that same plexi box with that dummy camera in it, saying "coming soon," and everyone goes, "Okay, we'll wait. Okay, anything else for full frame? I think we kind of covered it. There's only one larger camera now. Would be the medium format. That would be the Fuji.
Well, we could, for one final full frame,
Yeah.
Panasonic
Oh, yes.
and Sigma and Leica with the L-mount alliance. So Panasonic definitely has 2 cameras coming out soon, the S1 and S1R.
Now it's going to be what, first quarter of 2019. Did they give a date for that yet?
I don't think they have
I don't
yet.
think they are. No, I don't. Did you hear anything?
No, they haven't said anything.
Okay.
Can you explain that a little bit? What's happening?
So Leica, Sigma, and Panasonic all got into an agreement to use the L mount, which is used on the L series Leica cameras, the SL, TL, CL, all that. And so the S1 and S1R are Panasonic's new full frame mirrorless. They'll be using that mount. So they can use Leica lenses. Sigma's also involved, so they'll be developing lenses. And it's basically similar to Micro Four Thirds.
Right.
And how
Consortium.
they're... Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right. And any word on the cameras and how they're going to be and the differences and the distinctions?
Yeah, so S1 is going to be a standard 24 megapixel all-arounder model.
Only 24 meg.
Only 24. Everybody's got to have one.
Yes.
And then the S1R is their high-res model.
Okay. You want to talk about that medium format?
Yeah, the medium. There's only one, right?
Okay.
I don't. The Hasselblad didn't come out with anything this year. It's only the.
No, they just added some lenses.
Okay. The Fuji's an interesting camera. I'm interested to see how that camera is going to affect the market, and Sony's. Fuji's sales as well. I'm curious to know whether that's going to be a more popular camera than the first version they came out with.
Well, it's going to be less expensive.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that will probably help a lot of people on the fence making the decision.
And do you think there are people on the fence waiting to scoop
yeah.
up a Fuji medium format?
Yeah, definitely. Especially since the other one was a little out of reach if you were looking for something in the pro full frame DSLR market. And this one puts it, it's hard to, now you can make direct comparisons between cameras you would have bought and the Fuji.
See, here's a
Chelsea,
question.
anything on that from the store?
Oh, I mean, people come in and look at it all the time.
Yeah.
They'll call and ask questions about it. They're all getting ready. They actually put it on sale for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, so people were buying it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had a good sale on it. So
That's something I'm curious about. The difference between 35 millimeter film and medium format film cameras is very obvious as far as image quality. It's not that big a difference though when it comes to digital, because the full frame sensors are so high resolution right now. They blow away what used to be medium format film. And is there as big a difference now between the full frame cameras that we have, the higher res sensors, and say the Fuji and Hasselblad medium format? Do you think there's as big a difference for what you're getting for the larger format?
Well, now technical advances in sensors have dramatically closed the gap.
Yeah.
Because weirdly with sensors, technology trickles up in size. So you'll see smartphones with the latest and greatest tech in their sensors. Like we first saw the stack sensors in Sony smartphones. Then that ended up in the RX100 and eventually came to the A9. So when you're talking about medium format, you're not seeing the same advances. So the Fuji cameras right now don't have backside illumination. Right. So full frame sensors are able to close the gap where medium format used to have advantages in low light because of bigger sensors, bigger pixels. Now you're not seeing that. And with faster lenses for full frame, even the look isn't quite as drastic, although there is still an argument to be made there.
No, I think obviously the difference between if you know what you're looking at between different formats, there's a different look to the pictures. The larger the format and the smaller, there's a whole different thing. But as far as resolving power and a lot of other things, I think there's a smaller window difference there now.
yeah, definitely.
You know, and I'm not quite sure what the advantage is. Not as clear, at least for me anyway.
They did announce a 100 megapixel sensor coming out very soon, so that's a difference.
That's going to be a big difference.
Yes.
Only 100?
Only 100? Well, that's going to be 100 is the new 24. So.
Oh no.
We're going to get 8K screens at CES.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
So let's jump to the APS-C.
APS-C, yeah, we got a whole bunch of them here.
And DSLRs mixed together.
Yeah, this is kind of mixed together. Yeah. Okay.
Well, Fuji had a huge year.
Right.
Yeah, Fuji had a big
so
year.
let's talk about Fuji then.
Yeah, go ahead.
5 new cameras.
Yeah.
5, but who's counting?
All right. So what's the top? The X-H1 came out at the beginning of the year, or toward the beginning of the year, or was announced anyway, and that's the big one, and everyone loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little bigger, better battery life. It's a little
In-body
better for filming.
stabilization, right? Yeah.
The only one with in-body stabilization.
Okay.
Yeah, dual card slots. I mean, it's a serious camera.
Right. And have you seen a lot of Fuji shooters jump up to that? Like ones who've been kind of waiting for that camera? Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially people that do video
Okay.
that
That's
are
right.
Fuji invested. And as soon as you had that 4K in-body stabilization, 120 frames per second, they were in.
Yeah.
So my question is, now that the X-T3 is also out, which has the new 26 megapixel sensor and does supposedly even better 4K video, are people now struggling to make a decision between the X-H1 and the X-T3?
I don't think it, I think it depends on if they are doing mostly photo or mostly video. Usually if they're doing mostly photo and a little video, then we'll do the X-T3. If they're going to be mostly video, we go with the X-H1 because of the in-body stabilization. It does make it a little easier for editing and things like that. You don't necessarily have to have a gimbal, that kind of stuff. But if it's mostly photo, then the X-T3 is a great option. It's a little cheaper.
All right. Good points. The XA5? Anything?
It's new,
That's down the line.
tiny,
Yeah.
fun, compact.
Okay.
Great for beginners.
And that is interchangeable lenses. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then the XF10 is with the fixed lens.
That's the 18 millimeter. Yeah, it's
Right.
a good 28 millimeter equivalent, 27 millimeters, somewhere around that.
Yeah.
And is that street photographers are liking that, or is that kind of just the family camera? Who's buying that camera?
Could probably go both ways.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And it's doing well. I mean, the Fujis are.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean they always
Is there
sell.
still a Fuji Sony thing going on, or now that Sony's full frame and Fuji has its fans, are people just in their camps?
I do a lot of comparisons between the Fujis and the APS-C Sonys because they are similar. So it does kind of depend on, are they going for more of like an artsy look? Do they like the feel of it shooting almost like a film camera? Are they in it for speed?
Right.
If they're in it for speed, then they go with Sony. So it really depends on the customer, I guess.
How many people buy Fujifilm cameras for the look of the color? Because I could tell the Fujifilm image pretty easily.
A lot of people do.
Yeah, it's...
A lot of people don't even shoot RAW on them, and they just shoot the JPEG with the film simulations.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is weird because everyone before was always like, does it shoot in RAW? Does it shoot in RAW?
Yeah.
And now with Fuji people, most of the time they don't even care.
Interesting.
That is a flip. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
that is.
Okay.
And well, basically, the Sony just put out the A7 III this year, right? There's no new
That was
APS-C.
it. Yeah,
Okay.
surprisingly.
Yeah. Just the point and shoot.
Okay,
Just the
we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
And then in DSLRs, we mentioned the full frame Pentax, but the only other new DSLR
Is
this year announced is
the
the
Nikon
Nikon
D3500. Only
Yep.
two DSLRs the entire year.
that's
Let's
it.
talk about how things are changing around.
It's kind of a strange year then, considering that and the fact that Sony isn't pumping out stuff. Right?
Very strange, especially in a photokina year where everybody kind of drops their biggest and best stuff. Everybody's biggest and best stuff was mirrorless.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the D3500 is just your, I guess we'll call it your kind of consumer level Nikon.
Yeah.
And it's as good as all the
Great
other ones
for
beforehand.
beginners.
Yeah.
It's a little better
Yeah.
A little better.
than the last one.
Okay.
Yeah, it
All
is.
right. All right.
But it's
cool.
only 24 megapixels.
It's no.
Yeah.
No, and just to stop there, if you how much does that camera sell for? The 3500.
I believe
Around,
with the lens it's around $500.
around $500. And look at what you get though for $500. I mean, it really is. When we're putting it down, we're kind of like laughing. It's just a little
No, it's great.
Prosumer DSLR, but it does. ISO 25,600, 5 frames a second. It's got everything you need there. It's got a lot of stuff, and it takes really good pictures. And you can put better lenses on it.
You can build up your full frame lenses before you jump to a full frame camera.
Yeah. The only other camera I think left. Well, now also the Canon EOS R. No, excuse me.
EOS
back up.
M50.
M50. I was on the wrong page here.
Right,
Yes,
that's the APS-C mirrorless.
Yes.
Canon,
It's a nice upgrade. It adds 4K, which is the first one in their mirrorless line to have 4K video, which is now also the EOS R. But the M50 it's a big deal for vlogging, pretty much.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
And do you think that, from what I've understood, this M series has not been so popular here in the States, but it's popular elsewhere. Now, with the introduction of the full frames, is this line going to disappear, or people still interested in it? I don't know anyone that owns one.
I hope it doesn't disappear. I just hope that they make it a little better.
Okay.
Like if they just came out with nice lenses for it, which
Isn't
I think
that the
is where
issue?
they're
There's just
lacking.
1 or 2 lenses, right?
There's 8. I think there's 8.
Okay. All right.
9.
It's around if anything, there's about that or
it's
fewer.
around there.
Okay.
It's very, very few.
Okay.
And they're just not the same quality as even the Canon DSLR APS-C.
So, yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about is now they have mount confusion. So they have the EFM mount, the RF mount, and the EF mount.
Yeah.
We might see the M series consolidate into the RF series.
See, that would be
makes
awesome.
Yeah, I could see that. Do a transition there.
Okay. And Micro Four Thirds. Let's jump to them.
Actually, no, it's one more camera we didn't touch here for and because it's not out yet, it was announced. That's the Leica GR3, which I think is just a minor upgrade of the.
No, it's a huge upgrade.
It's a big one.
Oh, actually, it's a larger sensor now, right?
Now, it's a new sensor
New sensor.
and new lens designed to go along with the sensor.
Okay.
And various other tweaks. So the GR2 was simply adds Wi-Fi. This model actually upgrades the imaging
It's
pipeline.
actually a big upgrade, yeah. And,
okay.
And the GR2 was already great, so this is awesome.
People love it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a cult camera, right?
It
there
is,
are people that love
definitely.
them and they stick with them.
I've actually was looking at one. I was thinking about, because I like wide angle ones in really small pocket size. I was looking at that, then I realized the 3's coming out. I wanted to wait to see what that was like.
You want the 3.
So I want the 3. Okay, but it's a neat camera, and we've had some guests here who actually love those cameras.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. Noted guest.
All right, so we're going to move right along here too. Okay, Micro Four Thirds cameras.
GH5S.
Okay, tell us about it.
So that was officially launched, and basically Panasonic, I think, just leaned into how everybody uses their GH series cameras for video.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So it has a lower resolution 10 megapixel multi-aspect sensor. So you get way better low light, which has always been the kind of issue with Micro Four Thirds, in my opinion. So you get better low light. It's faster to read the sensor out. And because of that, you can get 4K 60 DCI with no problem.
Wow.
And it has the 10-bit internal up to 30 frames per second, which is huge.
That's pretty impressive.
They were just like, we have a photo camera that's just for video. Like they just went for it, and it's popular.
Everybody already buys our cameras for video.
Exactly.
Right. And did they introduce something to kind of counter that? That is a photocentric camera?
Well, the G9 came out at the end of the year before, yeah. And so now they have the
I should know that.
G9 for stills, the GH5 in between, and the GH5S for video.
Okay. All right, so let's run through the other Panasonic cameras really quick, the other Micro Four Thirds that came out. I'm seeing the
TS7.
Okay.
It's a 20 megapixel with a 28 to 128 equivalent zoom. And UHD 4K video. And what else? It got a 6400, 10 frames a second. And it has also a 4K photo mode, which is an interesting thing to have if you want to do stills and video and still get good stills.
Okay, and the DC-GH5S.
Yeah.
That's a small, like, rangefinder style Micro Four Thirds.
Right.
So it's a little smaller. It's not quite up there with the GH5 and G9 series, but it's still a solid camera.
Right.
One thing that Panasonic really attracts their customers with is the geotagging and the GPS and all that. People go to them just for that.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, because they want it. They need it for whatever they're doing, whatever photos they're taking, or I don't know, location scouting.
I was just getting for location scouting. That's ideal.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
all they
That's a
ask for
no-brainer.
it, and you just point them at Panasonic.
Wow.
That's a great point.
You could just sell them an Instax with a Sharpie and get the same thing. I mean, come on now.
I'll try that next time.
Remember location people used to wear they had the ring with all the
a little flip book of all. I remember that stuff.
Sure. Old days. Okay, the LX100 II.
Yeah, now that's the camera.
The deluxe.
That's the same as the Leica Deluxe 7.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll get to that.
And then we have the Sony CyberShot DSC-HX99.
Okay.
So these are 1/2/3 sensors.
Yes,
Yeah,
Point and
yes.
shoots.
Okay, before we jump to that, then let's back up then and just touch the Olympus pen, the EPL9, which is the last on our Micro Fours list, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay. Anything? I mean, that's a great. I always love that series of cameras when I've used them. I don't know much about this one particularly, but.
Well, that's right. Just to go back to the Leica, the Deluxe 7, which is also the twin of the LX100 II, the Panasonic. Those are nice because what I shot with the Panasonic version on a couple of occasions, and the lens is really, really nice. I happen to like wide angle, and at the wide end, it's a 24-1.7 equivalent. And that's really nice. I found that the stills in the video from the camera are really, really good. It handled beautifully. You know, and you can get it either, with or without a Leica logo on it.
Yeah, of course.
Just got to pay extra.
Yeah, and by the way, there is a difference. There is a slight difference between the two cameras. You get neutral color from the Leica, and I don't know about this case, but often they have more breakdowns of JPEG compressions.
Yeah.
They do that a little bit. So neutral color and a little bit more flexibility of compression. Not that anybody plays with that anymore. So.
All right, so the Sony CyberShot HX99.
Yeah,
say that fast. So, are you at the store? Are you able to say all of these, the alphabet soup?
I
whenever
do exactly what you just did.
Okay,
400 times a day.
I can imagine. Okay, so but these are point and shoots.
These little point and shoots now.
I
Yeah.
mean, that
1-inch point
HX99,
sensor.
it's a 1/2/3 sensor, but it is actually amazing. I mean, for what it is, with the zoom range that it has, it can shoot in RAW. It has manual capabilities. You can control shutter, ISO, all that good stuff.
The zoom range is crazy.
The zoom range is
24 to what,
crazy.
720 millimeter equivalent?
It has 4K.
Yeah.
The viewfinder on it is nice. I was like blown away when they came out with that. It's actually a really good little point and shoot for people that want something that's easy to use but has a lot of zoom.
And it'll still slip in your pocket.
Yeah,
right?
and it's tiny. It's a little buddy.
Cool. The Sony CyberShot RX100
There's
6.
two. There's the 6 and the VA. They came out with 2 in 1 year. And they broke from convention, too. They went from Roman numerals to letters.
No, that's a 5A.
The 5A.
5A.
Yeah, it's
Not the
actually
VA.
just an updated version of the 5.
Okay. All right.
So why would they do an updated version of the 5 and the 6? Any reason?
Well, the 6 is a significant upgrade with a new lens that goes from 24 to 200.
200, yeah.
Okay.
Which is insane because it's still the same.
And it's still like
Tiny.
a little
Yeah, it's
little
the same
tiny.
size still.
Yeah.
The 5A, if I remember correctly from the initial copy that got sent out, they had some availability issues with the actual memory chips and board stuff, stuff you wouldn't even think about.
Right.
So now it has the same processor and buffer as the 6. So it's basically a 5 that's a little bit better.
Yeah, and they're selling it at the same price as the original 5. And it just is actually a little bit of an upgrade.
Okay. By the way, there is one key difference, which could be a deal breaker for somebody looking at the two cameras, is that the RX100 VI, that goes from 24 to 200 millimeter. The maximum aperture is 2.8 on it. It's a 2.8 to 4.5 variable. But the 5A, it's only 24 to 70, but it's a 1.8 to 2.8. So it's a full stop faster.
It is.
Actually, a little more than a stop faster. So if you're in the low light, that could make a difference for you.
I always tell people, if you want it to fit in your pocket, you have to give and take in some places. And
Yeah.
here it's going to be your aperture.
Right.
If you want it to fit in your pocket and have the zoom. But most people that have zoom like that are interested in it, they're outside anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so other point and shoots really quickly. Got the Canon PowerShot SX70 HS. I'm assuming that's kind of a traditional point and shoot. It's got a 65. Oh, this is a bridge camera
It's a
with
bridge,
a 65
yeah.
times
Yeah.
zoom lens. Okay, this is a long lens. Then there's the SX740 HS, also a long lens.
But that one's smaller.
Smaller
It's
camera.
not bridge.
Okay, it's not a bridge camera. All right. 4K.
But it does 4K.
Yeah, that's cool. Fujifilm FinePix XP130.
That's their little rugged camera.
Yeah.
Right.
They've been making these for a long time. They're getting pretty good.
Yeah.
They're also coming in different colors now.
And they're so
Yes.
cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very
Yeah.
cute.
Yep.
Now I wonder when Olympus is going to come up with theirs. Did they do one last year? A new,
I
new
don't know if
version
they
of
did.
their.
They did
not.
one fairly recently.
Okay.
There hasn't been much movement in terms of new features on the tough camera front, so everything's still pretty
The
good.
same. Yeah. Okay.
Olympus is probably the best. Though.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd
Yeah,
say so.
yeah.
It seems like the other ones have kind of backed away from. I know Fujifilm does theirs, and each maker seems to have one camera now, and before they had 2 or 3 in the.
Yeah,
tough.
it used to be like you could buy like 6 different variations of the tough cameras from each manufacturer, it seemed like,
Yeah.
especially Olympus and Panasonic.
Yeah, they're probably competing now with GoPro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, GoPro had new cameras too. If we want to mention those, the Hero 7 came out, and the big deal with that is the hyper smooth stabilization. Mm-hmm. It's still electronic stabilization, but it's supposedly really, really good.
Cool. Good you threw that in. And then also the last 2 that I see here on our list of point and shoot, you have the Leica C-Lux and the Panasonic Lumix ZS200.
Which are cousins under the skin.
That sounds good.
Do you want the red dot or do you not want the red dot?
The nice thing about those is it does compete with the Sony RX100 VI. So you've got those 3 that are all varying price ranges that are all very similar in their focal lengths.
And
So,
who's coming in to buy those cameras now? And what do you say to them when you say, okay, these 3 different price ranges, take your choice?
It's usually people that are looking for something that's small, that can fit in their pocket, but they want it to have zoom.
Right.
But they also want something that's easy to use, that it's good quality. So those are the 3 that I'll usually start with. And then price usually kind of wins. The the Leica's obviously expensive, the Sony's up there, and the Panasonic is on the lower end, but all 3 are very good.
Right. And enough people are still coming in to buy these cameras?
Oh yeah. They're very popular.
Oh, good. All right.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about lenses and our personal favorite picks of the year. Stay tuned.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the B&H Photography Podcast. Send us a tweet at BHPhotoVideo, hashtag BHPhotoPodcast.
Okay, we are back. We're going to talk about lenses here, not as extensive. We're going to talk about our favorites. There's a zillion lenses that came out this past year, and a few of them made impressions, and that's what we're going to be talking about right now. Chelsea, let's start with you.
Tamron came out with their 2875 2.8 for E-mount. It's only $799, and so it's a good alternative to the 2470 2.8 from Sony, which is $2,200.
Right.
A lot of people were asking why they're going 28 to 75. Was a weird focal length and stuff?
It is a little weird. I assume it has something to do with price. It's easier to
And also, I think it
something.
separates them in the
it makes
listings
them
or something.
a little different.
Probably the size too, because once you go to 24, that's when you see everything get a little
Yeah.
bigger.
Uh-huh.
2875 is tiny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not a big lens.
I did a review on it, and it was beautiful. It handled beautifully. It's extremely sharp. The color's great.
Yeah.
Everything about it. The performance is wonderful. The size, the whole thing. And I was impressed with it. And I just saw something earlier today that they won some awards for that lens. And they're going to be doing more E-mount. I think we're going to see from a lot of manufacturers right now, more people putting that in.
A really good alternative.
Yeah.
Sigma came out with a ton of E-mount lenses this year. Most, they're fixed. They're 1.4s, but they're all reasonably priced. The 50 1.4 for the E-mount is amazing. They also just came out with one that's a little weird. It's a 56 millimeter. It is one of the sharpest lenses I've ever seen.
What's the aperture on that, Max?
It's a 1.4.
Okay.
Because that goes along with their 30-1.4 and, correct me if I'm wrong, 16?
16, yeah. And it's an amazing little lens.
And the E-mounts that you mentioned, they're Art Series lenses?
All Art
and
Series lenses.
they were lenses that already existed, and they just made them for
They
E-mount?
made them for E-mount, but they're faster than what I saw them being used on Canon.
Okay.
There's a couple new ones too, but that was they're new for
Yeah.
everybody, including
Yeah.
Sony.
Right, gotcha.
And that was the 28 and 40 1.4s.
Yeah.
And that would be, they make them for Sigma, Canon, Nikon, and now Sony?
Now Sony, yeah.
Okay,
Sony.
all right.
I think it's interesting that 40 millimeter has made a comeback this year.
I know.
Also, there's a few of them around, and that's true normal.
There's the Zeiss too.
Yeah, the Zeiss, yep. Which I used. That's the Bodice, the F2.
Yeah,
and the
CF,
Sigma's 1.4.
Right?
Yeah,
1.4.
And my experience of the 40 Zeiss lens, first of all, I thought it was too big initially. It's very big, but then it's F2 and it's autofocus and everything else. But I got a lot of very good pictures in a short period of time using that lens. It clicked with me. It's got a close focusing mode, and I was impressed by the amount of good images I got from it, and the image quality is lovely. The color, the contrast, the bokeh, everything about it.
Really
it's
nice.
a very nice lens, and it's like, I think $1,200-$1,300, something like that. I would consider that. And it's an E-mount.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Chelsea, any other lenses?
I don't think Sony really came out.
They had the 24-1.4, which is a nice, super,
the
it's a tiny
24-1.4.
compact.
That one is.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy that probably.
That's
an
crazy.
E-mount, okay.
It's very, very good.
G Master for full frame E-mount, and it's small for what it is, and they don't have any high end wide angle primes yet. So this is the first one, and it's a good one.
Good. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the new lenses for the mirrorless that came out, the Nikon and the Canon. I know they put, let's see, Canon has 3 lenses that came out, or is that Nikon?
Canon has 4.
Yeah, they have 4.
Okay, all right. And people are pleased?
Yeah,
you talked about it earlier.
the 2870 28 or 20 has never been done before. So, and it is very, very good for what it is.
And you've seen them, you've had your hands on them, you guys have both played with them?
Yeah.
Okay. All
Being
right.
that it's F2, is it ridiculously large? I haven't seen it.
It is ridiculously large.
95 millimeter front threads.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a fat one.
Now, is there any option for filters? Like some of these newer lenses, they're also putting like rear slots in for smaller filters. Does this lens do that?
That's the adapter they're coming out with in February.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Drop in
95 millimeters
filters.
crazy.
Yeah.
How about any long lenses? Any?
I feel like this year had a ton of telephotos. Because we had that 180 to 400 from Nikon real early. Sony officially announced the 400 2.8 for full frame E-mount.
We had the 60 to 600,
60 to 600 from Sigma.
which is a nice lens. I used that one too.
Yeah, Fujifilm had their 200 millimeter F2 come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another big lens. And then I feel like I'm missing. Oh, the Nikon 500 PF, which is incredibly small for being a 500 millimeter prime.
Yeah, I've seen that one. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And any one lens that stands out to you for like your lens of the year, if you had to do it?
That's a good question. I don't know. Come back to me.
Think about it. Let's jump to accessories then. And
Okay. Actually, I'm going to add one thing for lenses. All right. And, we're talking, a lot of the lenses we talk about are big, expensive, and everything else. But there's a little sleeper that we have here. And it's from Rokinon and Samyang. They came out with a couple of 24 millimeter 2.8 autofocus lenses.
That's right.
And I have for my Sony E-mount, and they're like $300. They are ridiculously small, ridiculously light, and ridiculously sharp, and the image rendition is gorgeous, and they're $300.
Yeah.
And I think they have a 35 millimeter 2.8.
No, 35.
They weigh nothing. They're small, and they're really nice.
They are. I forgot about those.
Yeah. But so if anybody's listening and you want to get yourself a wide angle 24 or 35 2.8 autofocus for an E-mount, and you don't want to spend a lot of money, and you want to have really good lens, Rokinon or Samyang, both of those.
Yeah,
they're the
they did
same
really good.
lens, and they're great.
Cool. Okay. You often work in the bags department over there, and anything exciting about bags? Something we don't talk about too much here.
I think one of the most popular things that came out was Low Pro coming out with something that is very similar to the Peak Design bags. So the Peak Design stuff is obviously very popular, and so Low Pro kind of made their own spin of it, and it is really popular. I think I almost sell more of those than the Peak Design ones.
What's the name of the series?
Freeline. It's the Freeline from Low Pro. Peak Design came out with their new one. It's more of a duffel.
Yeah, the travel series, right?
30 liters, and you can expand it to 45.
And the Low Pro that you refer to, it's a series of bags that come out?
They just have one right now.
Okay,
so Peak Design has the 2 different sizes. Right now, Low Pro just has the one 20 liter. but it is really popular. You get 2 color options, so they're making their way up. And probably the Wandered bags are very, very popular for travel this year.
And in store, do they have? I did an article this holiday year on high end bags. You know, bags that are $400, et cetera, et cetera. Do they even have those in the store? Or are they all special order?
We have the Onas, we have the Billinghams. The Onas are all on display. Billinghams, you got to call those up. Those are all handmade in England and very fancy and proper.
Do we have the Adam Morelli bags in stock yet?
No.
Yellow plug there. I saw it's a gorgeous bag.
And who buy? I mean, are these pro shooters that come to buy these because their quality is so good and they're not going to last them years and years and years, or is it more just for the design element and looking pretty?
I feel like a lot of the people that buy it are the people that have things like the Zeiss fixed, the RX1R fixed, the Leicas that are all small and have their few accessories, and they have these very nice bags, and they basically use them for their camera because they have nice padding, but then it's also just their everyday bag.
A lot of those bags also will last you forever.
Forever.
And that's another thing about it. It's just a little tip for anybody who's looking at a camera bag. I have been going through my closet full of bags lately. And one of the things I notice is that sometimes you buy a bag because it looks really good and you like the material and everything else, but you don't think about how much the bag weighs empty. I have one bag. It's a beautiful satchel type bag, messenger type, and it was made out of leather. And I realized that this bag empty weighs almost as much as a lot of my lightweight bags filled.
And your new mirrorless cameras weigh less. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so take that into consideration when you're looking at bags. How much does this thing weigh? Are you going to be filling it up with cameras and carrying out all day? Because those few extra ounces add up after a while.
They do.
Food for thought. And at the end of the day, make sure when you walk out, you're happy with what you buy for whatever reason.
Good advice. Okay, anything else? What other? I know there's a ton of accessories we can talk about, but anything off the top of your head that stands out? Adapters, funny cameras like Thetas.
Like everybody's looking at me.
Yeah.
Any accessory.
Well, talk about drones then. What's new in drones?
Well, I'm just only going to talk about the main release, which is the DJI Mavic 2 series.
Right.
We got a chance to play with that and go to Iceland for a few days with both the Zoom and the Pro. The Pro is incredible. Right. The new 1-inch Hasselblad camera is amazing for the size of that drone. The image quality is so much better than previous models too.
Chelsea, any accessories, anything off the top of your head that...
I know Just Gratis came out with their big line of new tripods, which are really, really nice.
Okay.
They're
Todd's been talking
higher-end.
about those,
They're pretty expensive, but they are going to compete with all of, Manfrotto and Benro and all of those really
they're
popular.
aiming for like the Gitzos and really right stuff.
That's what I think.
They're actually, they were really, really nice. And they have all varying different sizes. They'll cover every kind of photographer. So that's like one of the big ones that I can think of.
Todd did a review and he was very impressed
very
with
happy.
them.
I got to play with it for a couple minutes and it feels real great.
And what's the brand line name?
Robus.
Robus. R-O-B-U-S?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know where they make these names.
It's robust without the T.
I guess so.
They save money there.
But lights, we talked about some Pro Photo this year, right?
That's definitely worth talking about. Yeah. So the B10 came out this year. I really like these lights. They're basically half the size of a B1.
Right.
Half the power too, which is one stop of light. It's not really that big of a miss.
But they're flash, they're LED.
Flash, they have the LED modeling light, which you can actually use for video, complete color temperature variability too, and it works with an app.
And it's like 3 pounds.
And you can run
it's tiny.
You can run the whole thing off your phone too.
That's actually the selling point.
Yeah.
No, for traveling though. Size and weight. You could travel with a complete camera lighting system and carry
in one
on
bag.
Yeah, you can carry it all on a plane with you right now.
Profoto says it's about the size of a lens. Now it's going to be a pretty fat 7200 you're working with, but it's about there. Yeah.
Cool. Luxley came out with a new set of LED lights. They call them the Orchestra series, right?
Yeah. So that's a series of lights of varying sizes. The Timpani is their new 1x1. They're all fully color tunable, and you can use an app and just go into the color wheel and just pick anything you want.
Wow.
And it also lets you select different gels. So you don't need gels anymore.
I was reading they won an award at the Lucy Awards this year. That was a pretty big deal for them.
That's a big deal for them.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, I can tell you just on a personal note, for my home studio, I've actually transitioned from flash to LED now. I don't have any flash. It's all LED that I'm using.
Yeah,
and umbrellas and soft boxes.
I use a combination because I do video too. So the B10 I use B1s right now and other LEDs for video, but the B10s are super interesting to me because they might be able to consolidate my kit.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you're not going to freeze fast action with them. I don't need that much. I don't need to do that often.
They're pretty good though, still.
Oh yeah. No, I'm amazed how much light you could pump out of these things and then tweak them a little bit and get them the way you want. So the big roundup here. Let's talk about our favorites here. I would have to say that I want to see what the Zeiss camera is like. Okay. Yeah. That I'm really, really interested in. The ZX1 is that? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, correct.
That camera I'm interested in seeing. I want to see what kind of images it is, how it performs. The fact that you could do, like Photoshop Lightroom in the camera on the back. I saw the sliders and everything. It's to be able to do that much and then be able to truly get it off the camera wirelessly. That's what it seems to be they're doing. I want to see what that's like. I really do. As far as my favorite lens of the year, even though I think it's too big for its size and everything else, the Zeiss Bodice 40mm f2.cf. I keep going back to that. I just really liked what I got from that lens. And I like 40mm, just normal.
All Zeiss.
All Zeiss. Yeah.
Cool. Chelsea?
Camera of the year for me personally is going to have to be the A7 III from Sony.
Mm-hmm.
They did a really good job with that. I don't know about lens of the year though. That's hard. I really like the 135 from Sigma for the
that's right.
That was a really, really nice lens. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And did you buy that A3? Or I know you're a Sony shooter now. Okay.
No, you can. It's safe here. No, we won't tell anybody.
You wait to hear the podcast first.
Yeah.
And you deserve it, right?
Yes.
You do. You earned it. And you deserve it.
Sean.
All right. So my camera of the year, we didn't mention it, but the Fuji released a Taylor Swift edition of the Instax.
Oh,
okay.
No, I mean actually, I do like the ZX1. I mean, the Instax.
Once you said it, you got to stick with it.
The Instax cameras are great, and you got the film packs to match.
The film packs.
Now, why can't they do a Leica Q that way?
Yeah,
that may be good for Instax, but it probably signals the end of her musical career.
Oh no!
I mean, she's got to sign.
No, actually, I think she has a new clothing line at Sears too, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, all right, cool. Well, I'll just jump in here and say, for me, it's going to be that Ricoh, the GR3.
Yeah,
I may want to get that camera. I want to be in that cult. Cool.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see reception of that.
Wait, what's your actual camera of the year, though?
I would have gone with the ZX1 if Alan didn't, but I would. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. You could borrow mine. How's that?
No, I'm going to go with the Z7, the Nikon Z7, because I think Nikon spent a lot of energy and effort in making sure they did their full frame mirrorless right, and I got to give them credit for that.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
And for lens, I'd go with the Sony 24 just because I know I'm going to buy that at some point. So
yeah,
that's a good lens for me.
All right.
By the way, as far as the GR3, I already have a 28mm optical finder sitting in a drawer waiting for that camera because that's the way I'd want to use it. So I'm on that too.
Cool. All right, sounds good. Let's wrap it up.
Okay, there we go. So there are the cameras of the year, lenses of the year, and toys to go along with them. So anyway, so there you go. Another show in the can. All good stuff here. Chelsea, thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting.
Come back. You'll come back and visit us again?
Sure.
Okay, Sean, always good to have you here. By the way, if you're interested in finding out more about any of these cameras, lenses, and other gear we've mentioned during the show, just hit the show notes in your podcast app for links to every single product we were talking about. And for now, if you are not a subscriber to the B&H Photography Podcast, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, Spotify, and you can always find us on the B&H website called Explorer. For now, on behalf of Jason, John, and myself, thank you so much for tuning in today.